Peace and blessings, and welcome to another edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I am your host, Kim Martin Raymond. I am a spiritual life coach, minister, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves mind, body, and spirit. It's so wonderful to have you here with me for another episode. And our episode tonight is entitled Protect Your Peace. And I am so excited to have this beautiful sister here with me this evening and to talk about peace. And especially in this time of pandemic, we have found it difficult to find that peace.
Yes.
Because we have been in a space of fear. We have, been in a space of trying to navigate in this space. There's been some uncertainty. So for some, peace has been something that has been hard to find. But if in some instances you've been able to find it, you want to be able to protect it. You want to be able to preserve it so that way, as things are changing, that's something that can be a constant. And so, we're going to dig right into what peace means and what this means and how this looks. And at this time, as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to have my guest introduce herself and we'll get into it. Take it away, sis.
Hello. Greetings, everyone. My name is, and I am Sekhmet El Shakti Lioness, and I am an empowerment coach, for some a spiritual advisor, but primarily I help and assist women of color to use self-care as the ultimate love language when transitioning through their healing process. And for me, that looks like professionally being a life coach. I am the owner of a space that I've been entrusted with called the Lotus Wellness Lounge here in Atlanta. And it's a meditative space for women and men of color to honor our souls through self-care. And so my main focus has been Reiki energy healing. And so I have been in a very intuitive space lately and just learning how to not only deep dive into myself, but administering through loving care and loving kindness, a cultural mothering effect of Reiki healing through my clients. And it's just been an amazing experience. I am an author of 3 books, with the next one, Protect Your Peace, coming out hopefully in July. Hopefully.
It's done.
It's done. And honestly, you can sign up for what I'm calling the waitlist to Woosah at protectyourpeace.com. And I'm really just truly living in the now.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I am so glad to have you here. I had an opportunity to meet you at my prior church home, and you're just such a beautiful spirit. So I'm so happy to have an opportunity to reconnect with you. I've had an opportunity to hear you speak and have just been blessed by the many things that you are doing in and through this community and in and through the African-American experience. So I am so grateful that you're here with us. And I love the Reiki aspect because actually in 3 more days, it'll be a year since I became a Vitalite Reiki master myself under Zena. So yes,
we have the same story. Okay.
Yes, so I am just excited about the energy and being able to see how those things are manifesting. And like you said, it's definitely been a season. So let's talk a little bit about that, because we have been let's just start at the beginning. What was happening in your life prior to the pandemic, right before the pandemic started?
Literally today, as we're recording this, I'm gonna give the time of the day. It's March 26, 2021. A year ago, I just checked my Instagram. I had done a Reiki session on a past lover a year ago today, who I was in a situationship with for 7 years.
Wow.
I kept asking all these different questions because something wasn't right between us, and he allowed me to do a session on him. I did the session. The intuitive skills, the ancestors came up and showed me everything that he was not willing to share. And I was just like, wow. So what that did for me was I was, slowly trying to put pieces of my life together. This healing journey, it's long and tedious.
Yes, it is.
It's very laborious. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow. And when I confronted him and he confirmed what I saw, and I knew then that I was really tapped into the spirit, I had started to accelerate the conversation between me and the spirit realm, because it was just me going back and forth of like, maybe this is what I'm supposed to do. Maybe I'm not supposed to do this. How do I make this work? Right. But that day, 1 year ago today, I was just like, wow. And I started a process called the Queening Activation just to help me detox the rest of my emotional journey.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah. And I can imagine. And then the pandemic hits and the world stands still. And you're like, what is happening?
But you know what? Honestly, 2020 was a rough year. We all can attest to that.
Yes.
But honestly, I just felt so much peace because I got to really just ground into what the spirit was saying. The world and the physical 3D interactions had stopped, but spirit was just active.
Yes,
and so it just allowed me to just connect in a way where I could see signs and omens and participate in a conversation that was higher than me and bring that conversation down and then make it a lifestyle. So 2020 on the spiritual side was discipline and activation.
Yes. Yes.
And
I believe that. And that's the thing. I think it's interesting because some people say, oh, it was a horrible year. But just like you said, for some people spiritually, it was such a year of abundance, of awakening, of opportunities to really, like you said, tap into those things that were in a space, in a realm that was higher than ourselves. And so just like you said, you are speaking truth there. So I mean, you're like, you find it and it's like, okay, so now what do I do with this? But just like you said, it took you to a space of peace. And what did it look like?
Well, honestly though, that peace was slightly overshadowed by what we call shadow work. Because with all of that stillness, you really have to catch up to what your mind has been telling you in addition to the spirit. Yeah. So I'm sitting there, some days it was cool. I was going to meditate in the parks. And then some days I couldn't get out of bed because I was like, this is too much truth coming my way. Like, this is just way too much healing that I was playing around with. And it just slammed on me. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do it. Either I'm going to survive this or I'm not. And it got uglier.
Right. Shadow work is no joke. We had a show previously with a guest and a dear friend of mine, and she talked about shadow work. And that's something that is really, it puts you in a space of looking at yourself in the mirror, taking a good hard look at yourself and the things that are going on in your life and trying to do that. And just like you said, it can be very unsettling.
It is.
It's very unsettling.
I think that a lot of us, especially culturally, so a lot of my dialogue is centered in being an indigenous woman. I don't like to say a Black woman because that's a classification, but being an indigenous woman and just having generational issues and plagues and diseases. The thing about shadow work is that a lot of people, and I'm finding this through my clients, may not be able to distinguish what is shadowy in their life or what is actually dark because they've been generationally conditioned in an unhealthy element. You know what I mean? So some people can't tell the difference. There's no area of distinction because everything that is unhealthy has been their healthy norm. You know what I mean? But if it hasn't really added value to you, if it hasn't promoted you in a way where you can expand your soul and prosper as a human being, as a woman of distinction, as a man of distinction, you are not in an environment that is conducive to your growth. And I had to really learn that. Like, I was thinking smart last year. I was like, oh, I did big things. Okay, you getting it. But when I realized that I just kept going in mental cycles and I had no true evolutions, just ascending thoughts, but I wasn't progressing with those thoughts in action, then I realized, okay, so you're just going to be a child of the spirit. And so when that happens to you all, just trust that spirit will never take you so far out of place that it will not, your ancestors, the angels, the Most High won't bring you back to where you need to be.
Right.
And that's been my 2020 journey.
Yeah. And so here it is. You not only are you experiencing that, I'm sure that you had clients that were going through the same thing at the same time. So I can imagine how that must look, because you're trying to go through things, on a spiritual realm for yourself. And then here it is, you're having to also provide and support for a lot of your clients. And so did you see a shift in what your clients were asking for during that time?
My prayer was that last year, before the onset of the gridlock, was, please bring me, Spirit, whoever you need to be healed through the aspect of our relationship. So when I was receiving people that was coming by referral, I've never put up an ad, you know what I'm saying? But I have like clients that I have to turn away. So when people were coming to me, I started to realize that when I immediately was healed of something, or I was in agreement and alignment with a certain shift, then they would come to confirm either, yeah, you ready for the next level, or you ain't get that right yet. So they would be crying through their session, and I would be like, oh, these issues, oh God. And I'm like, just put this on pause so I can get them out of here. Then I'll ugly cry.
Right.
So what that looks like for me is my healing journey is dealing with my mother wounds, my daddy issues. I'm very open with saying that my mom, she decided that mothering me, at the age of 12 was just not something she could do anymore. But, she unceremoniously put me out her house, and it was no warning. So that set the precedent for me in terms of all the relationships I had with Black women. Friends, associates, mentors, it all got messed up at that phase. So when people come to me, I know immediately, okay, you've got a mother issue, or you've been sexually assaulted and you need to get spiritual release from that. You need to be recalibrated cellularly. So when they're coming, I already know, just based off of premonition and prayer. I pray before each session, but I know that when they come to me, there's been a certain breakthrough that I've had that allows the attraction of whoever is coming to me to immediately have that breakthrough experience.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's no real intake and dialogue, and it differs from therapy. Whereas, I'm writing an assessment. I'm literally scanning your body language. Spirit is talking to me while I'm looking at you, and I already know.
Right.
And so I've been blessed that I can say 10 out of 10 times, I'm always accurate. And that's because of me being tapped into the spirit and just doing all the work that was necessary for me to do.
Wow. And you see, and it's a process. Because like you said, it's a process to be able to go through, being able to coach and being able to tap into what it is that your clients need. And so much of it is still a part of our own personal journey, our own personal processes. And there's never a time when a coach doesn't need a coach. And I've talked about that all the time. When it comes to coaching, even myself as a coach, I need coaching. There's never a time or a season where we're not constantly looking at and assessing the things that we're doing personally, so that way we can, be able to assist and be able to walk alongside those who need us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's a big space. So let's talk about this whole aspect of peace, and let's talk about this whole aspect of protecting your peace, because like you said, you have a book that's coming out in July, and it's called Protect Your Peace, and it is the 7 virtues of sacred sanity.
Yes.
Love it. I'm excited, guys. Get on the waiting list, because I am already on there. When it drops, I'm getting my copy. So I want you to do the same thing. So let's talk about, what was the premise behind writing this book?
So I turned 30 in 2017, I think. Okay. Look, I'm way over the hill now, but
you like count. I'm like, Carrie, please don't make me get my calculator out, because
So I was turning 30, and literally I had just got out of, I hate to tell myself like this, but I had just got out of another situationship where I was living with somebody. And I was immediately told, I had moved out of Georgia. And I was immediately told when I met this person, don't even, you could be fast, but don't be that fast. And I was like, well, how fast is fast? And so long story short, it was so bad that I had to come back to Georgia, live back with my grandmother. And I was just like, my life is not doing anything that the vision board said, because I was a proponent of the vision board.
Yes.
This is what's on the board, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And it was like I was living in 764. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
right.
I was just really having a moment. And spiritually, I think I had just hit a cap. Like, I'm a church girl, I'm a preacher's kid. I've been in the church my whole entire life. I tell people that I think I was conceived in the church, literally. And, you know, something happened where, as a faith healer, you know, I grew up in prophetic ministries and learning how to exorcise demons. And I could tell you this and that. I went to go pray for somebody that was very near and dear to me. And the expectation of my faith was not met. I crumbled, and immediately just that love that I had for God in that way had died. So I literally spiraled out of control because my faith literally died. And that's the only thing I knew. Wow. I was in school for theology and seminary. I purposely dedicated myself to the Most High. You know, I wanted to be a slave to the church, so to speak. And I just was like, I don't understand. I don't have the career. I don't have the following. I'm not living in the penthouse downtown somewhere. What the hell is happening?
Right.
And then one night in 2017, right before my birthday, I had a very spiritual interaction with an ancestor of mine that had passed, one of my favorite uncles. And immediately I heard, what you need to do is protect your peace. And I was like, huh? Like, I'm so used to hearing the Holy Spirit only, but I knew it was my uncle. I know that I'm looking at you right now. And he was like, you need to protect your peace. And I didn't even know what that meant. Right. So throughout the past 4 years, I've been on an ancestral journey, and I've been rediscovering a lot of the things that I swept under my personal rug just to help keep other people's story looking like it belongs on Broadway. You know what I mean? I'm used to being an emotional hoarder. I'm used to being quiet. I can keep a secret till 3 lifetimes away. But Spirit was tapping at me saying, okay, you don't have to hide anymore. And so it's been a chaotic journey. What I thought I was maintaining as peace was actually the preservation of chaos. So I had to learn how to switch my lifestyle into surrender as opposed to being struggling. And it's just been crazy. That's the only way I could put it. There's no decorum, language decorum that I can use than to say, because when you are in that space of being your uncompromised self and you're starting to emerge to who you truly are, there's no pretty way to be pretty. There's no pretty way to be ugly. You just are. Right. And you pray that at the end of this journey, I walk away with my sanity.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
A thing that she said that, like I said, that hit me like a ton of bricks was that preservation of chaos, because that's what we do. We are so conditioned to, protect, and we're so conditioned to give the facade that everything is okay, and that if it looks okay, then it is okay. Mm-hmm. And just like you said, if we make it look pretty enough, then it's not going to, it's going to be all right. And if no one's feathers are being ruffled, we're okay.
Right.
But just like you're saying, what you're doing is you're not preserving your peace. You're preserving that chaos. You're keeping it at bay. Yes. And that's tremendous. And like you said, that's a tremendous journey to be able to tap into the things that are going on with you and take a good, honest look at yourself, and to be able to say, okay, I have to face my demons. I have to face these things that I've swept under. I love the way you said it, swept under your personal rug. And to be able to expose it and say, okay, no, I want to clean that. I don't want to hide it. I want to rid myself of these things so that I can have that pure peace that, we're seeking to have in our lives.
And honestly, it wasn't even really that I was looking for the peace, because I was fine maintaining, the darkness. That's fine. But it's kind of like I just had this visual in my head. How do you contain a tornado? You know what I mean? A tornado is created through heat,
Right.
and an open area. Like it was not created to be in one spot. It has to flow before it can dissipate. And when you consider that you've been keeping in a tornado within yourself, you a container. If you don't let it all out, if you don't free yourself of whatever it is that's been bothering you, your secrets, your family secrets, how you view yourself, how you project yourself in the world, and how you interact with the world, that tornado is going to mess you up on the inside, and it's going to drag you where it wants to take you. It's going to make you do things you don't want to do. I started picking up habits that I thought I left. You know what I mean? So then I had to be aware and identify, okay, I'm being triggered now. How do I know I'm being triggered? Because this coping mechanism that I used to have when I was aware that I was in a dark space is now starting to knock at the door, and I'm letting it in. You know what I mean? So I just had to it wanted to come out. So I just, over the past 4 years, just come out, please. Just come out. And so that's what's been happening.
Yeah. And so it's been coming out in different forms. You talk about the 7 virtues of that sacred sanity. Talk a little bit about those 7 virtues.
Well, that's the part of the secret. Now, that's, you got to be on the wait list for that.
She was like, okay, she said that's a spoiler alert. So we won't
right.
we won't do that then.
What I will say this about sacred sanity. One of the 7 virtues is what was it? Uncommitting, unplugging, and deactivating. Now that's not the title of it, but I'm giving you the zhuzh.
Right.
And one of the things that I had to learn was that it's okay to not be okay. But it's even more important to not ever plug back in to the norm that you knew.
Right.
And that was the scariest part for me. And I think that is the scariest part for me even now, which is why I'm debuting my haircut to everyone today. Because
for those who can't see it, it is lovely, because it's like I said, that face doesn't change and she is beautiful. Okay, yes.
But I've been so accustomed to hiding. Just being, I've always been a bigger person. I've been the big girl. And so I've always had to overcompensate by looking a certain way. I had to make sure that if people didn't think I was attractive, then I really had to learn, of course, not only how to code switch, but I've had to learn how to diversify my language in such a way that people would have no choice but to notice me through my speech. And so it was either that or my appearance or doing something to an overextended capacity, AKA people pleasing.
Yes.
And so the hardest part for me has been to unplug and disassociate from everybody, including myself, so that I can live freely within the rest of my journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It all really seems like a lot that I'm saying, right? And I think that's just for the sake of time. But honestly, this is how I feel. Either you're going to do what you feel you need to do, or you're going to become what everybody tells you.
That's right. That's right.
And people have told us for so long that we cannot feel our way through lives. Like, feeling emotional intelligence is what they call it now, but before that was the word. People who have been heightened through their sensory, I'm sorry, let me calm down. Heightened in their senses have always had a certain type of spiritual projection. And that's always been masked behind how we feel. So people have anxiety issues or depression or other imbalances chemically because there has been no way for us to connect freely with who we are.
Right.
And so when you don't connect with who you feel you are, you can never be as vibrant of a soul as you're supposed to be.
Right.
Because it all comes down to, we come here to, I believe the earth is one big fertile space. And we are each walking seeds, and we all have something to plant.
Right.
God has given you whatever you acknowledge your most high as. She has given you an aspect of that spirit, of that intelligence, that you can leave your imprint, AKA your legacy. And the way that we know that God is with us, if we can't always hear and we can't always see, then God is within, and we feel the spirit.
Right.
And so what happens is, when we're not connected to the feeling in the core of our soul, then we begin to disassociate mentally. We begin to tell other people, or look for other people to tell us how to identify the feeling. And that's just impossible to do. So we walk around looking for fillers. We overcompensate, going shopping. Of course, it's the sex, it's the food. And we can never feel it because we're not intact with the voice.
Right. Right.
And so the absence of your connection to that voice, to that center, is going to be how you presently experience chaos.
Right.
And so my whole goal with Protect Your Peace, or even how I serve humanity in the smallest little ways, whether it's Reiki or saying hello or giving a stranger a hug, is I always want to feel connected to the knowing.
Right.
I want to be active and activated to know that everything that I've acquired, I'm about to start crying, I'm sorry. Everything that I've acquired will not be to my detriment,
Right.
but it will be added value to my destiny.
That's right.
And the only way that I can do that is to make sure that I'm taking care of me unapologetically,
Yes.
without compromise, and knowing first thing first that I am a non-negotiable. And so when I tell you to unplug and evaluate, I'm telling you to get out of the rhythm that you are in.
Right.
Because if you have no harmony, you're not in sync.
Yes.
And that's another version of chaos. If you think of melody, if there's a note that's out of pocket, everything is just crashing cymbals.
Right. Right.
It doesn't make sense. And while you can look like you're doing well and you can act like you're doing well, even to yourself, you're not in a place and space of wellness because you are falling out of harmony.
Right.
Peace means that you are available to the process that was made for you. And that's what you need to protect.
I love that.
It may not be a millionaire. You may not be a millionaire. You may not have everyone knowing your name, especially in an age where people tell you about content creation to get more followers and, do this and be this magnetic personality. You don't have to try to be a magnetic personality. Your spirit enough is the breath of God that makes you this definitive, magnanimous urging. But only when you know that you are in balance with the flow.
Yes.
Can you serve that urging? And can that urging bring you the resources that you need to never want or desire for anything outside of yourself?
Ooh. Ooh, child, that's worth a run. That look, that was almost a praise. I almost took off. Yeah, but you make a very valid point. The one thing that you said that I absolutely love, because it's something I believe myself, is in that harmony. Because for me, it's not always a matter of things being a balance, a yes or no. It's not always black and white. It's that harmony, and it's that rhythm that we create that allows us to be able to to be able to step inside of ourselves and say, okay, how do I make things flow? How do I bring that rhythm to my life that's going to keep me in the space of purpose and keep me passionate about those things that are important to me. And I think that when we negate that, or when we step away from that, or when we allow others to tell us how we're to be, and we don't experience and feel the things that come to us, that we we, put ourselves in a space of disadvantage because we're
Yeah.
no longer operating. We're just operating to please people. I say it's almost like wearing two masks. You're wearing two faces. You're wearing
Yeah.
the facade that you want people to see, and then you've got this protective mask that you're supposed to wear for COVID. How do you even breathe?
Yeah.
How do you breathe
Yes.
with two masks on? With that fake face on, and then that additional mask? How do you breathe? How do you inhale and exhale when you've got all of
Yeah.
these things covering up who you are? So,
Right.
just like you said, you can't discover that peace if you can't even let go of those things that are, that you're allowing other people to make you feel.
If you listen to a situation where their life was literally in danger and balance of being lost and they've narrowly escaped, they will always tell you, my intuition, my feeling told me to leave.
Mm.
So if your intuition or your feelings can save your life, why can't it lead you into a greater knowing of the life you already know? Or why can't it lead you to a space where you can forget the life you had if it's not working for you, but you can trust that feeling and explore something you couldn't even imagine?
Right. Right.
And that's kind of really where I'm at right now. That's my headspace. I'm like, I've lost everything in the proverbial fire. And now I just
Yeah.
have to see, I've been alive long enough to know that there's something out there that walks with me, that talks to me, that guides me when I am even in my deepest, darkest space. And it doesn't even come as a light, it just comes as a whisper. And it just won't leave. So why can't I just trust that voice?
That's it. But you have to be open and receptive to it.
You have to be open and stop being angry.
Right. Right. Or if you don't understand it, sometimes because we don't understand something, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't take the initiative to find out, okay, I don't understand. So let me start seeking out someone who can possibly help
Yes.
me,
Yes.
or just allow it to flow and say, okay, well, if I sit still and I'm quiet enough, maybe what it is that I'm supposed to hear, I'll be able to hear.
You
But
will
if we
hear.
shut ourselves off, we're never giving ourselves the opportunity to do that because we're too fearful. Oh, well, I don't understand it. We're so, fearful of things that we don't understand, that we don't
Mhm.
know that we can be closing the door on something that's, meant to take us to a whole nother level.
Yes.
So I'm sure that
Yeah.
that's a part of that piece that we're talking about protecting, but it starts with taking care of ourselves. And we've heard that buzzword
That's
so
it.
much. That's me.
Self-care.
Self-care and self-care. And oh my goodness. It's like if I hear that word
I'm
one
tired
more
of that word
time,
right
one
now.
more again. I'm like, okay, I need to find a new word because I'm getting tired of hearing something. But
Woo.
but we understand what they mean when we talk about something. We have to be able to open ourselves up and be receptive to those things that spirit is trying to bring to us. And if we don't, we're doing a disservice to ourselves. And
Mhm.
platforms like these where we can talk about peace, and we can talk about caring for ourselves, and we can talk about listening to those still small voices, and doing that shadow work that needs to be
Yeah.
done. If we're not willing to open the door, then the opportunities will never come. The things that are supposed to come through those doors won't have an opportunity to, because we're too afraid to open them. So it
Yeah.
starts with us. It all starts within. So that protecting of our peace sounds like, to me, it starts from within.
It
Right?
really does. And it all honestly in tandem with identifying what it is you want, you have to also know what it is that you desire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the big thing, because I really had to limit my language, because I'm a love child. I am a hippie. You know what I'm saying? So I can go with the woo. And so I use a lot of words like prosperity and abundance and
Yes.
law of attraction and all that. But I'm really learning how to limit that language, because I feel like I perceive that might be too big for some people.
Mm.
So when it comes to flourishing in life, I really would want you to ask yourself, what is it that I really desire? Some people don't really want an abundant life
Right.
in terms of wealth, hopefully you desire it in health, but it's people have different desires. And so me giving you what my journey and my description of abundance or prosperity or a prosperous life looks like may differ for you. But if you know that you want your life to mirror a certain result, your best bet for winning or championing or conquering certain obstacles that come your way, that come to test and strengthen you through certain challenges, is for you to really just be committed to your end result.
Makes sense.
And I think that's where some people get a little choppy, because they're like, well, I'm not manifesting. I'm trying to co-create with the universe. It's not working. I'm trying to claim my peace. It is not working.
Right.
What is it that you really want?
Right.
Maybe you just want to feel settled within yourself, even though you may have 6-7 generations of alcoholics. Maybe you just want to learn how to be the one to break a generational curse of being molested or victimized, or you just want to learn a simple technique in how to approach life in a more positive or reaffirming way, so that you can just flow as you need to. You know what I mean? So it doesn't have to be this big astronomical display of I finally arrived, because some people don't know how to do that. But what you can do is say, I have this goal, this one little goal, and you're going to take smart steps. And you're just going to say, I just want to manage this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And once I manage this, then I know my perspective in life can change. And that's how you get drawn to certain things and certain people. That's really how the law of attraction begins. When you settle it down, the noise, which is peace, quieting down the external factors and even your internal conversation and dialogue. When you put yourself in a space that you are isolated and you can just begin to envision what a euphoric feeling is like for you, then you begin to navigate your darkness, your obstacles, your challenges, your broken relationships, those that are without and those that are within. And you can begin to do what's necessary for the life that is either given to you by choice, or some people are designated to do and become certain individuals. But you really need to be committed to your commitment.
That's it. That's it. I mean, I love it. And that's what it's all about. Again, like you said, everything is about a process. It is a process. It's not something that happens overnight. It's not something that's always black and white. There's a whole lot of gray that exists within trying to navigate through it. And it's like with anything that we're talking about, even with this pandemic, where we start out in a space of fear and not understanding, and then we hopefully get into a space of learning. We get into a space of understanding and figuring out what's the best thing to do, and then hopefully we get into a space of growth. And that just seems to be the classic way in which we deal with any type of situations that are going on within our life. It starts out with us not knowing, coming to a space of knowing and doing better, and then saying, okay, what have I learned in this experience, and is that something that I can reach back and help others to navigate through as a result of the growth that I've gained in it. So there's a cycle that takes place, and I think that this is, a beautiful way to talk about protecting our peace, because we want to get into, a space of not always being so closed off. I think that this pandemic has done that for many people who have seen some of the benefits in it, is because they've just taken time to say, okay, I've got to let go of some of these things that I've been hanging on to for so long that made sense. And because things were going on, you let the noise and the chaos of things that were going on around you distract you and keep you from being able to come to a space of center and saying, okay, now I'm left with me. And now I'm looking at me, and where am I going from this space? Where am I looking to go? Because now I don't have anybody else to distract me. I don't have anyone else to take my attention away. Now, what am I going to do? Now, where am I going to go when I don't have anybody to face but me?
Exactly.
So yeah. This is awesome.
So I've learned that in this process, self-honor is probably the highest form of self-care.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I've really had to be critically I've been hard on myself, but it's been necessary in the past year to see that I have not been keeping my commitment as a goddess in her temple. And so for me, self-honor is just showing up as you see fit and as necessary, and not really giving into the desires of how people would wish that you would speak to them or address them, not in terms of respect, but in terms of as a person and as a soul. Sometimes you need to get me in my anger. Sometimes you deserve this wrath. And then I'll get to choose when I want to be pleasant. I'll get to choose how I serve out of this vessel and into yours. And that's another component of intuition. But I was listening to Ram Dass about 3 weeks ago, and he was talking about living in the now, living in the isness. What stuck out to me was him saying, who are we to say what is good? Because good can never be good enough, because we'll always have a different perspective on how we should be. And so when you think about just the process of self-care, to me, if you're not honoring yourself by showing up with your voice and backing that up every time, shutting something down, you know what I mean? If you're not saying, not only with your voice, but with your actions, that this is who I am, it's really about making your space, making your name known, you know? And that I just really feel that, like, that's been a journey for me. Like, that's my vulnerable moment for you.
Yes.
I've been learning how to use my voice and really put, because I thought people pleasing was a bad thing, but really it's just people like myself who have a heart of service.
Yes.
We don't know how to stop doing and being good. And so that becomes a subject or an area of abuse for some people who are givers and takers. The takers will always receive at the expense of the giver, because the giver never knows how to stop.
Right.
But, learning how to yield and say, okay, I'm only open from hours 2 to 4.
Right.
Next time we're on the phone, I don't want to hear your whole life story. Are you about to die?
Right.
Like, I've literally had to stop. People have kept me on the phone for 8 hours, and it's just draining. Are you about to die?
Right.
Spirit didn't tell me you was really gonna jump. So what you doing?
That's it. You
and
stop
that
at the point of enabling. You don't want to enable.
Exactly.
I can help, but I'm not going to give you everything. The running thing that I've been saying lately, I found myself saying in different circles, is that, I want to be able to pour from a cup of overflow. So that not only, I want it to be from overflow, so that when I pour into you, there's enough left in the cup for me. And then we could take those cups and toast one another.
Oh, I like that.
Thank you.
I like that.
So that's where I want to be. I don't want to be. I don't want to be in a space where I'm giving so much of myself that there's nothing left. I want there to be enough so that we can celebrate our victories together, so that I'm not feeling any type of animosity towards you, and I'm not feeling, any anger, and that you've taken away from me. When really I've taken away from myself. I've given you the keys and allowed you to do that. And that's what we do. We're quick to give things away to others and not keep some of that. You have a giving spirit, but you say I'm a people pleaser, or I like to give to people. Well, don't you realize that you're one of those people? You're one of those people yourself. So when do you give back to you? When do you pour into you? When do you give? And that's where that whole philosophy of self-care and doing things comes into play. But until you get to that space, just like you said, you won't have that peace that you're looking for, because there's always something that you're feeling that you have to prove. And so, just like you said, that when you get to that good, where what's good, who determines what good is and what that looks like for
Exactly.
everyone. There's no
Exactly.
standard for good. It depends on where it is. And that's why, like you said, it's so important that you're doing things that are going to personally, you know, take you to that space. It's not
Right.
something that you can get from someone else. It's nothing that money can buy. It's the ability to be able to find that space where there are no disruptions for you,
Right.
and it looks different for everybody. So
It looks different. It feels different. And it's a matter of, do you own you?
yes,
Do you have the proprietary rights to your own life?
right, right,
Like I've been, I was kind of glad, maybe I got this little gem last year, but when I had my whole breakdown, because I didn't even tell you, like when my faith fell, it fell. And I spiraled out of control. It was nasty.
mm,
But
mm,
when I came to, because I was just like, honestly, when you're transitioning faiths, and I hate to even say it that way, but when I like to say expanding my relationship with the knowing. So when you're expanding
yeah,
how you relate or correlate or are integrated with God, it's not something that just kind of shakes up, some temporary beliefs. It's like your whole physiological self is jolted and you don't know
right,
where to go, because it was like, well, how do I serve now?
right,
How do I live now? What are the tenets of my bylaws now? What are
right,
the, I
right,
don't want to go to hell. Like that was the thing
right,
I was
right,
like, and
right,
so
right.
that's when the chaos started to come and unravel, because I
Yes,
was like, I kept my life on quiet so that I could live a quiet life in Christ. You know what
right,
I mean? And
right,
so now that my understanding of not only what we would call Christ consciousness, but really the lifestyle of even Jesus is and was like, I only came to do one thing,
right.
and that was to do my Father's bidding.
That's right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
So I just feel like I don't even remember what the origin of what I'm saying is, to be honest. But when it comes to protecting your peace, what was I saying, please?
You were talking about the fact that when you spiraled out into a space that was beyond something that
Let me say, I got lost, y'all. I apologize, because what I was going to say was about to connect
yes,
into the whole relationship with God, transitioning in and out of yourself,
right.
but being in the knowing. Oh man, it was so good, but I got lost into the spiral.
It's
See what
all
happened?
right. That's all right. That's
It
all
was
right.
so deep. It was strung together. Maybe that was just for me to just keep, but shucks. I just want to say this. God won't fail you.
No, he don't.
Whatever God is, life will not fail you.
He will not.
And I think that a lot of people, because that's probably what it was. We're told how to do things and
Yeah.
how to run our lives, that when you start to obey the spirit, not obey, submit to spirit's plan for you, there are no rules. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's no good or bad. You're
Right.
just in the flow, like the current.
That's right.
That's what you were designed to do.
That's right. That's right.
And it was so majestic. I kid you not. But let's change the subject,
It,
because what
it,
I
it
wanted to
is
say.
all right. It is all right. But the whole point of it is, like you said, it gets us to a point, it gets us to a space of peace. You know, we're not easily shaken, but we're
Listen,
learning.
the preacher in me, the preacher's kid, had that all organized. So I'm really mad right now. I
Don't
just,
be mad.
it
Then
was
guess
just
what?
not the
Then,
flow.
then come back and talk about it again another time too. You know what I'm
They
saying?
gonna have you start.
There's no one time that you can come and be on the
Thank
How
you.
Now podcast. You can come back anytime, talk about anything. The platform is always here. The door is
Oh
always
my
open.
God.
But yeah, but it happens.
It
But
happened.
guess what? Such is life.
Yeah.
Such is
Yeah.
life.
This is the now. This is the
This is
now.
the now.
This is
This
the
is the
now.
now. And so,
Yeah.
and it's not always going to be this way,
Right.
So just like you
Right.
said, we're going to continue to walk in this space we're going to continue to walk in this peace, and we're going to
Yeah.
protect it by protecting ourselves, protecting our heart, protecting who we are
Yeah.
as individuals, and seeing our value and our worth. And
Yes.
that's something that's so important. That's something that even personally I'm learning. It's about, I value me. Just like people value their games, and you will stand
Mhm.
online and you will spend $400 for or $1,000 for a game system or for clothes and things like that, but you don't value yourself. We don't
Mhm.
put a price tag on ourselves, but we will sit there and say that, oh, I have to have this. But just like you talking about, I have to have me.
Have to.
I have to have me. I have
Have
the
to.
rights. I have the, this is my, intellectual property. This is
Yes.
me. This is the only me that I have. So when do I value myself and let others see the value in me, and know that, I'm not going to just say, well, no, you can just talk to me any kind of way. You can just do
Right.
things any kind of way. No, I value my life. I was brought here with a purpose.
Yes.
And so for me, it's all about value and self-worth, and being able to self-regulate also
Yeah.
in so many different ways. I believe in expressing myself and being able to feel, just like you were talking about earlier, have those emotions of anger thing, but we're not staying there.
Mhm.
We're not living in a vacuum and allowing those emotions and things to consume us. We're
Mhm.
taking time to say, okay, I was angry, but now, okay, I've expressed that anger, and now what am I going to do to move past this point? So there's self-regulation that has to take place.
Mhm.
So we know that when we do have those feelings, or when those desires or things creep back up, what do we do with it?
Right. Right.
Do we go back into those same cycles? Like you said, do we go back and plug back into where we used to plug back in?
Mhm.
Or are we learning new ways to do things so that we're moving beyond that space?
Yes.
you know all of that, I believe, is a part of peace.
It is. If you can't be yourself, like
Right.
I just I feel so good now, that especially having opened up the wellness lounge,
Yes.
and I get to hear people's story, or I get to see beyond what they're telling me.
Hmm.
And I'm just like, the number one thing that people who have lost themselves do is that they live in a space of regret.
Right.
You know what I mean? And living in the now enables you to be free to
Yes.
make a decision that benefits you right now, but
Right.
also allows your soul to keep projecting and moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think for me, especially, I've always said, well, I'm going to do this. Or that's why when 30 hit and I was just like, I didn't do it. The only thing I knew was to live in regret, instead of just assessing and saying, okay, this didn't happen because one, two, three, four, or it
Right.
just didn't happen because some
Things
things
are
you
happening.
cannot control. I am a micromanager. I need to know details upon details. And when me and God are talking, or the spirit is talking, and I can't understand, why did you let this happen in 1993?
Right.
I just can't understand why you would let this happen, God.
Right.
So
Right.
I've had to really, like you were saying, just let go. But
Right.
the process of let go is just not something that you can always decondition from immediately.
Exactly.
Sometimes you need to take steps that will help you retract in a healthy way and say,
Right.
okay, it didn't happen.
That's it.
Okay, I'm still moving forward.
That's
I
it.
can say that now, but I couldn't say that 4 years ago.
No. No.
I had to learn
But the
that
point
art.
is that it no longer consumes you. It's no longer a part of who you are. You have disconnected from that. and
I am no
and
longer
just to be able
serving.
to say, I used to do that and now I don't, that's a
Yeah,
victory in and of itself. Even if it just
it
happened
is.
yesterday,
Yes.
you've taken a step forward. And that's the thing. We act like everything has to be so grandiose in order for it to matter, in order for it to count.
But that's
If
what
I
we've
can,
been conditioning
yes,
to.
yes, because if I can get this hair to go into a bun without one little hair sticking out, then it's just like that's a victory right there. Just one little hair, okay? You know,
Right.
where before I would wrap this thing and it would just unravel.
Yeah.
But the point is that it's the little things
It's the
that
little
that
thing.
we take for granted, or we say that, oh well, because it didn't look the way I thought it should look, that it's not a victory.
Right.
It's a victory. If you were able to drink your 8 glasses of water today, and you
Mm-hmm.
may not do it tomorrow, we're not worried about tomorrow. Right now, I can celebrate the fact that I drank those 8 glasses of water.
And you were intentional about nourishing
Mm,
yourself right now.
got it. There you go.
That's that self-honor. That's that
Yeah,
divine connection. You're like, I just want to do good for me right now.
that's right. That's right.
And you don't need a stage to drink your 8 glasses of water,
Thank you.
but you may have, added an additional week to your life in the long run
That's it. That's
because you're committed to the commitment of being your healthiest self.
right. And you're learning
So
to
I'm with
forgive
you.
yourself. And that's a big thing too.
Forgive.
Forgiving ourselves and to be able to say, it's okay. All right. I may not have done exactly what I wanted to do today, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. But for
Mhm.
right now, I'm going to forgive and love on myself enough to say, okay, I'm just not there yet. Or what
Mhm.
other things can I do to get there? You know?
Right.
So that's what we're looking for. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Okay. So now before we, start winding things up, because well, honey, you and I can sit here and talk till tomorrow, and I would love it. That's not a problem at all. But
Thank you.
the one thing that we always do at the end of this show is we talk about how people are living in the now. What are they doing right now to navigate in this space? So what is something that you're doing in the now?
Um, I am doing, I think going back to my clients, because I really feel like God sent them for me, not necessarily for me to serve them.
Right.
But going back to that whole self-regret and self-condemnation,
Mhm.
I hear a lot of them say what they wanted to do, but they couldn't because of corporate careers. And you know what I mean? That's a big thing for women of
Yes.
color.
Oh yes.
Ownership of your physical and aesthetic value and that property that you are as a mass, as a brown woman, that is the most revolutionary act. So I've been listening to all these stories, because my mom raised my sister and I to have these thoughts of being
Right.
career Black women up until probably, the late 2000s, had their hair permed. They didn't have tattoos. They were in shape, looking for a high value husband. And, they wanted this lifestyle to say that I belong in your system. Praise me because I belong in your system. So for me, living in the now, purposely and intentionally rebelling against that system.
All right.
I don't want you to accept me. And so what I now am working on is, of course, I shaved my head, but I wanted piercings for the longest. Like it seems so minute, but now that I have my piercings, I feel like I took my voice back. Like this is
Yes.
my identity. I have, one tattoo that you can't see, but one that I'm getting ready to get on my arm. And it seems like, okay, she's tripping over this modification. And it's not the modification, but it's me saying, in this space in which we all collectively belong, you're going to
Yes.
see that I am not in your uniformity.
Yes.
And so whatever that looks like in the moment, I'm just going to honor that I'm big, I'm brown, and I'm brilliant in it all.
Yes.
But first, I had to reclaim my physical and aesthetic identity. That was very important to me, having grown up in a predominantly white institute in college and, going to a very white elementary school. You know what I mean? I was always called the Oreo. I did everything right. But when I started to put a little bit more bass in my voice to
Right.
distinguish that I'm not like Becky,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? When I begin to say out loud, yeah, I rock the RBG flag, like that's necessary for me.
Right.
And so now standing bold in all this indigenous glory, that's why I submit myself to my ancestors now, because they want to live again through us.
That's right.
They want to be our voice. And I'm just like, I want that too now.
Yes.
I have a wide nose and I love it.
That's
You
right.
know, my full lips are natural to me. And so the first thing that I can do living in the now is really accentuate and take care of my physical self, honoring my temple. And then honestly, the next immediate thing after my physical characteristics is really just honor. And I don't want to keep being repetitive with the honor, but I really do just want to live out a life of service and not be ashamed of it.
That's right.
Because, you know, good Black women have always been demonized in such a way that ostracizes them from society. I'm not going to be angry and I'm not going to be bitter no matter how much you try to break me.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to the outside world. That's my internal dialogue with other women of color.
Right.
When I either facilitate sister circles or speak at them, right. I always say, sis, being angry and bitter is a choice. Being broken may not have been, but when you get to kill somebody with kindness and you can see that it visibly irks them.
That's right.
Hello.
That's
Hello.
Right. Okay, because you're gonna get that hug whether you want it or not.
You're gonna get it. And exactly. So I just try to be very, and it, you know, since COVID or whatever, regulations have made it a little bit more difficult. But most people that see me, they want to get an embrace. But I'm very intentional living in the now by staying committed to my act of service.
Yes.
Because for me, being a server to humanity means that I'm serving God and He's restoring Himself as the source in me, and I have permission and authority to be the resource.
That's right.
That's what living in the now means for me. I get to think about God all day unashamed in a way that doesn't have restrictions from the church. Or a woman can do this, a woman can do that, she can't say this. Listen, when we talk about church, and I know I got to shut it down, but the Holy Spirit in the Bible, there was Paul always talked to the church Ephesians. In the book of Ephesians, he always talked of the church of Ephesus. And there was a point where the women in Ephesus got so filled with the Holy Ghost that you could not stop them.
That's right.
And that's what I want. I want to be so plugged in that you can't stop me. There are no restrictions. Like, I have such a peace in knowing that I have my life back because I decided that the rules just aren't for me.
That's it.
And now I know that God entrusts me with His people. To me, that's a marker of permission. Yeah. Like, I see you tripping, but I trust that even in your trippingness, the people that I send to you, I know that you care enough for their freedom and their breakthrough that you're going to serve them in your own radical way. And that's the only way that I know out of the past 4 years of thinking that God turned His back on me because I was having this meltdown over my faith dying, literally. Right. I know that one thing that God loves, and God, again, is natural law. God is your higher power. You can use it in the sense of the creator. But what I know is that God always wants His people cared for. Yes. And I know that I do that well. That's right. I know that my intentions are pure. So as long as God sends me people, He knows that I'm going to serve them with all the love that they need to break them free. Yeah. To loose up every bound condition, to break every generational curse, that's to right. Put down every stronghold, to put down every ear that has been deaf to the calling that has been placed on their life. I know that when you come to me, you're going to get fed naturally and you're going to get fed spiritually. Yeah. There's no way that you're going to walk into my presence and then leave imbalanced. That's it. So anything I do is me living in the now. I'm walking with God, and I don't care what nobody says.
That sounds like overflow, like I said, pouring into that kind.
Clink, clink.
That's right.
Clink, clink.
Yes. Well, honey, you talk about, people who come into connection with you. So tell people how they can get in contact with you, honey. How is that for a segue? You like that?
I love that one. So right now, that was phenomenal. The main way that you can get in contact with me is my personal website is being built. So the main way that you can contact me is through my email, which is mamaindysoul@gmail.com.
You may have to spell that for me again. So you said
Okay.
mama.
MAMA.
Uh-huh.
INDI soul at Gmail. You can sign up for the waitlist to USA at protectyourpeace.com.
Yes.
And also on Instagram, I'm usually in my DMs more than anything. So at love Sekhmet. So
at love Sekhmet. So you have heard it here, my love. You know, it is always a joy, you know, when we have an opportunity to connect, you know, and that's how you know someone is family. That's how you know that you are in a sisterhood and that you're people, you know, when you connect, it's like you just saw each other yesterday.
Yes.
Picking up where you left off. It's not like, you know, what are you doing? How you doing? You already know because we're already spiritually connected. We already soul sisters. So we already know. So like I said, I am so thrilled that you've taken the time to come and to be here and to share. And like I said, get on that wait list, y'all. Get on that wait list because when the book drops, like I said, I'm going to have mine. Don't make me be on Facebook and everywhere else going, I got mine and you don't have yours. Don't let me be that person.
Don't do it.
Join me. Show your book too so you take pictures together. But again, before I close things out, I always ask if there are any parting words that you want to leave with our listening audience that you know they can carry with them. You've dropped so many nuggets that have given so much information, but any little thing you want to say?
Yeah, I'm sorry I have talked y'all to death. Well, to life, I hope. But
to life. Oh, there you go.
I just God knows what you're going through.
Yes.
And you're not alone. That's if you need to scream, if you need to shout, whatever your form of prayer is, God is there. And if you just open your eyes to the realization that you need an answered prayer, you're going to receive it.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
It. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and like I said, you have heard it here. We thank you again for joining us for another edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. Go on out there and protect your peace. Make sure that you are out there loving on yourself and loving on others. Again, pour from that cup of overflow and then make sure you pour into them. And then y'all take a cheers. Give yourself a little clank clank and celebrate. All right. All right, then that'll do it for this edition of the How Now podcast. And until I see you all the next time, I say peace.